Hey everyone, it's me, HawkeyeG, and I'm here with another video for you. This one's a bit of a specialty video. It's more advice for the Realms of Chaos campaign in Total War Warhammer 3 in general. After having played a pretty decent number of campaigns here and seeing how things play out at different stages of the game, I wanted to give some advice on a strategy which may appear useful at first, but I believe it's ultimately a trap. This is of course the namesake of the video: never skip a soul in the Realms of Chaos campaign. There's one main reason you don't want to do this, and of course a secondary reason, which I still think is worth considering. So, with a quick thanks for watching, and like and subscribe, we'll get straight into what those reasons are. So the first and main reason I don't think you want to skip a soul revolves around the new system in Warhammer 3, which is called Potential. I've talked about it in previous videos. If you're not familiar, I'll link you to a video by Venerus SFO, who has a good video explaining the basics of it. The summary is that the more significant bonuses that the AI gets, like replenishment increase, upkeep reduction, build and recruit costs, and growth, scale based in large part off of a hidden value called potential. So this value is based on things like your land holdings, all the territory that you have, all of your building upgrades, the total level of your heroes, and even things like the ancillaries, like the followers and items that you have available to equip. So that means that the bonuses that the AI get aren't static based on your difficulty level as they were in past games. They are instead dynamic based on your own strength in the campaign. So with that explanation in mind, some of you I'm sure already recognize where I'm going with this, but of course I'll continue. The point here is that this potential system means that in terms of campaign victory progression, it's more important for you to focus on the actual victory than it is to try and become strong or stabilize your base of operations. Now, when people first found out about how the Realms of Chaos worked, there was a lot of different ideas and different speculation. I think the best example of what I'm talking about here is exemplified by the Slaneesh Realm. As a refresher, when you go into the Slaneesh Realm, you're of course trying to get to the end and collect the soul. However, at each level of the realm, you are offered a gift in exchange for leaving the realm for that cycle. One of the options I've even recommended myself in the past is at the second level. Once you get to the second ring and move forward, you get either a 20 or 40,000 treasury bonus, and you get a growth bonus to all of your provinces. Of course, the casualty replenishment is nice too. This sounds great, right? A big cash investment into your empire in the early game, and the growth to make use of it. Getting to tier 4 early on, having higher tech units, more money to go around from infrastructure investment, that seems like a really good idea, right? But this is where the potential system comes in. For all of the upgrades that you're getting in your own territory, you'd also be increasing the bonuses that the AI gets. So that means that the AI will still get things like increased growth, reduced build and recruit costs, reduced upkeep costs. So while the idea of getting a big cash and growth influx early on sounds great, the problem is that by taking this, you'll effectively be giving the AI some degree of the same bonuses of their own. Especially now if we couple this with the idea of skipping a soul entirely. It's not like you couldn't get this bonus and get the same soul in the same rift cycle, but it would be a stretch. And furthermore, in that rift cycle, Slaneesh had already got ahead of me in that realm. So not only are you giving the AI some degree of the same bonus, so it's not really helping you as much as you would think, but they're getting a soul, right? They are all going to progress towards the victory condition where you are not. And of course, this is compounded even further if you go for something like the Personal Sycophant or the Blade of Slaneesh further in. Things like ancillaries are even calculated into potential as well. So no matter what bonus you're taking out of the Slaneesh realm and how you're using it, you are effectively giving a similar bonus to all of your opponents as well, while also letting several of them get one soul ahead of you. Now that's focused specifically on the Slaneesh realm and the gifts that you can get there when we're talking about skipping a soul, right? But another option you might be considering is to just not enter the rifts at all. Maybe you're on a campaign with a bit of a tougher start and you haven't done things optimally, and you want to deal with the ongoing wars that you are going to be facing and that your allies have not been doing well enough in. Instead of going into the rifts and risking losing a decent amount of territory, you might look at the situation and go, well, I'd rather wrap things up here, make sure to stabilize my base, maybe help out the Empire a little bit before they get completely destroyed, and that way I can have a stable campaign and definitely get to the rifts for the next 4 cycles in a row. That should be fine, right? Or maybe you're playing a faction which has a little bit more straightforward and simple of a start. You've got your first province under control, and it's only a few turns in, and you're looking at, well, you know, I've got this other opponent here, and if I were to take some of their territory, you know, I can probably get that done in the amount of time that I have. So you might have a tougher start and be looking at it and feel like you're not stable or secure enough to make it through that rift cycle by going into it. If the rifts open and you find yourself behind on your current task, then you might just have to accept some loss in the early game. Your new task then would be resolving that issue and cleaning up after you get back from the rifts, instead of trying to take care of it beforehand. You might put whatever your next plan is on hold, but that's to be expected with this Realms of Chaos campaign. Or maybe you're so far ahead on an easier campaign that you go, I can start another project and work on that and give myself an advantage. Basically what I'm talking about here is the thought that if I just wrap up this ongoing task, then I'll be able to pace out the rifts better. The idea that you just wrap up this ongoing task, that almost never happens, right? There's always another task. If you find yourself behind on your current task, you just have to accept some risk and loss in the early game. Your new task would be resolving that issue and cleaning up after the rifts, not before. It might put your next plan on hold, but that's to be expected with this campaign. Otherwise, with this early game scenario, if you get ahead and you have nothing to do, it's easy to convince yourself to try and start another task. While this isn't a terrible thing, you should be entirely willing to and prepared to give up on all of the progress you've made in this other task in order to do the rifts on time. Again, this would just become your new task when you return, and regardless how much head start you would lose on it, that's better than missing a soul. Now, the important thing to keep in mind here is that it's not just that you might set your pace skewed by skipping a soul here. It's the same issue as the previous part on this point that still applies. When you gain this additional land, it will still boost the bonuses that the enemies get. So once again, not only are the enemies going to get a similar benefit that you will from your own growth and expansion, it's also that they'll be able to collect a soul at the same time. So, you know, in this campaign, we might get to 2 provinces instead of 1, and, you know, barely make it in by turn 30, or, you know, say, well, I can go from 2 to 3 provinces in the first, 50 turns and then get into a rift. But again, that is just going to give your opponents more bonuses to clean things up in between the rift cycles and set you off behind them, right? Or in the Kislev campaign, where it looks like I really could use the extra 10-20 turns to try to clean things up there. Well, again, we're still going to end up with a period of time, if we go that route, where we don't have anything to do, and then we're just going to make the enemies all stronger while also giving them a better chance at getting all the souls first. Now, the last thing I want to say on this is my secondary point here. I think it's a little less consequential to the overall campaign, but I still believe it's an important point to consider. It can be difficult to correctly assess the amount of progress you can make between each rift spawn cycle because the first set of rifts takes 30 turns to spawn. Now you might be saying, but Hawkeye, don't the rifts spawn each 30 turns? And while you're correct, what I really mean by this is that you have to remove the time spent inside the rifts from your available turns for each rift cycle, right? Before the first set of rifts spawn, you will have 30-ish turns to work on whatever project you want, without a doubt. But once you go into that first set of rifts, or any rifts for that matter, you have to remember that your current project will be delayed by however many turns you spend in the rifts. Now, I'd estimate that you'll spend about 10 turns in each rift, so you should be thinking of the scope of your campaign and projects in terms of 20 turn segments rather than 30 turn segments. And again, it can be hard to conceptualize that when you start out and you have nothing to do until turn 30. Well, I can probably take these guys and maybe take over this mountain territory too, right? I could get that done in 30 turns, but that's not realistic goals to set for yourself, because if you get off pace with that project, you're not going to have the same amount of time to do that project and your next project the following rift cycle. So I said 10 turns. The Slaneesh Realm may only take you 4 portal jumps if you look up the map, but even then you can't get it done in 4 turns. Some islands take multiple turns, and if you still have the extra turn of entering the realm, plus the extra turn of doing the survival battles, maybe the Corn Realm would be done in under 10 turns, assuming you're there first so you fight all the armies. and you are good enough to take minimal losses in every fight, and you don't want any of the unique items or replenishment from the corners, and no other AI invades the realm to disrupt you, I don't think I have to convince you that Nurgle and Slaneesh's realm will probably take 10 turns or more. When you get out of that first rift cycle, you'll only have about 20 turns until the next set opens. You can see here on this campaign, I've taken this whole province. Zinja's campaign starts out really straightforward. You can easily get this first province in 10 turns or less, and you might want to spend, like I said before, a little bit of time trying to clean up ambush one of these armies. But it looks like you would have the time to go down here and try to take out this Cornet faction. But I think that's only the case because you have those 30 turns. I think if you're really pushing yourself and you're good at this game and you're on a great pace, of course you can do it. But generally speaking, right, that wouldn't fall under like a 20-turn plan. This should be your second goal. And the same thing for Kislev. I don't think it's realistic to take out the Ropsman clan as the Ice Court, right? It's not realistic to take out the Ropsman clan and destroy the Bearsonelings in 20 turns. Right? You can probably do it in 30 turns if you're really efficient and you get some lucky ambushes, but you shouldn't be planning for that anyway. You should kind of play out to turn 20 and spend the rest of the time trying to just strengthen your infrastructure and economy, right? Making sure that you have the buildings in place, the technology in place, and a good enough army, and just kind of wait it out, right? Make sure that you have income and that you're prepared so that as soon as you get back from the rifts, you don't have to really manage anything else. You can just get straight back to work and ensure that you finish that project with a few turns to spare, rather than trying to start a project and getting caught up in it. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't wrap up a first project in the first 30 turns if you can, especially on harder campaigns, but it's more about not overextending, not creating an expectation that you need to finish a project if you start one and run out of time. And it's also about not starting a new one that you decide to follow through on instead of doing the rifts. So on the harder campaigns, you might just have to risk or accept a little bit of losses, or try your best to just hold down territory and pick one of the realms that you can get through in a shorter time frame. On the easier campaigns, bunker down, let your income grow, and just wait it out. If you're not spending your money on anything for a little while, that's going to be okay, and it's going to prevent the AI from accumulating as big of an advantage through the potential system anyway. That way when you get back, you can get immediately to work on your next project. So hopefully this all makes sense to you out there. I'm sure some will disagree or say that they've had good experiences by skipping a rift cycle, and that's fine. I personally consider this to be a good rule of thumb, but not an absolute truth. Even on some of those harder campaigns, I can see not wanting to get caught up in the rifts for too long, and maybe even having a need to secure some of your territory, because being only one soul behind isn't too hard to catch up from. And of course, if you're going for a domination style victory, then you would want to skip the souls every time, or you would do the Slaneesh Realm rewards and go all the way to the end because of your intention for the domination style victory. But generally speaking, I think that it's a useful gameplay tip to understand and make use of. I have had campaigns run until turn 150-60, and on hard or above, it starts to look pretty dire. The AI will have had enough time with their bonuses by that stage of the campaign to really start pressuring you in an extreme way on all sides, and I don't recommend that. The key takeaway here is that the smaller you stay, the less bonuses that the AI gives. You want to be slow and methodical with your expansion in this game, and if you want to win, not by domination victory, you really need to prioritize going into the rifts and taking the souls there. You do not want to prioritize the campaign map, and I know that sounds strange because it's fundamentally wrong for any other Total War game, but in this Total War, in this campaign specifically, you want to prioritize the souls. You don't want to prioritize the campaign map. The campaign map is secondary to that. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I think that's covered everything that I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you found this discussion useful, and it helps reframe how you think about and approach campaigns in the Realms of Chaos mode. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, please remember to like and subscribe. And if you have any thoughts of your own on this subject or other questions, please leave them in the comments section down below. I've been enjoying this game a lot, but I'm very happy that we finally have a release date for Immortal Empires. So as always, thanks for watching, have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.